All right, so before I get started, I want to talk to y'all about how we do our current practice. How many of y'all have taught online at all? Okay, give me a show with your hands. How many years have you done the online thing? Like with your fingers? 2, 3, 10, or more than 10. Okay, and then I'm assuming y'all are also holding down face-to-face.
Yes.
Face-to-face courses, traditional courses. Okay, so have you noticed that we tend to think, or how much of the things coming out almost, I don't want to say denigrates, but seems to fly in the face of what we call traditional instruction. So first of all, when we talk about traditional instruction, when we talk about the things that our evaluators say, don't do this anymore, what comes to mind?
Don't lecture so much.
Lecture. What else? Lecture. At the high school level, worksheets. Just say no to the ditto machine. And one of the other things that we try to do is Socratic discussion, sort of this off-the-cuff, we've assumed that you've read, discussion, and that's what we ourselves grew up with. That's what we know how to do. That's the way human beings have been educating one another since time immemorium. And so there is this sort of ethos that the novel, the old way of doing things doesn't work. And so what first I kind of want to do is I want to do what I call a defense of traditional instruction. Traditional instruction, if done well, can add a tremendous amount of value to the educational experience. So when we talk about worksheets, especially in that lower level of Bloom's, it has a value. In mathematics, the worksheet allows for practice of a skill set, assuming you've taught it to them correctly. And then, of course, in a social science, that read check or that worksheet provides a venue to check for comprehension. Did they actually read that lowest level of Bloom's? It's not going to get you to synthesis and creation, but it is a spur towards knowledge and comprehension. Lecture. It allows you to address and to anticipate student misunderstanding. It allows you to engage with them more authentically, especially if you are shall we say, one of those who can be the true sage on the stage. Now, we've all had that prof, or we've all had that teacher who was not the sage on the stage, and they would literally lecture from the Latin, lexo, lexere, lecti, lectum, meaning to read. Originally, lecture was actually reading from a text because the text was actually a manuscript and you didn't have the printing press to let them read it, so you had to read it to them. And so, and how many of you have actually had the prof who actually read from their book? And you're like, wait, this is not the beatnik generation. We're not at the coffee shop having this moment. And then, of course, class discussions. If done well, it is a remarkable opportunity for students to share their understandings and to air out misunderstandings. Again, it relies on you've created that space. How many of you have had good discussions in your classroom? How many of you have had discussions that fell so flat you were like, I regret this. I regret everything. We've all been there. More so in history, not so much in math. Great thing about math, there are right and wrong answers. Okay, so why doesn't traditional instruction seem to work? Why has it gotten such a bad rap? Well, there are limits to the effectiveness of it. Now, if you think about it, a kid's not going to do that practice and comprehension unless you're going to score it. That grade, even, and how many of you have had that one student who will argue about the correct response on one practice problem, and even if that one worksheet is worth less than 10% of their grade, and you're like, wait, you're arguing over a fraction of a percentage, but okay, I'd buy this for a test. Yes? Oh, you've had it.
Yeah. The 98 is not going to give you 100, and they're still A's.
Right. Right. Actually, I will say one of the joys of teaching college versus high school is you have A, B, and C. So you're kind of like, look, this is not going to make the difference. Now, I mean, you teach high school students who are concerned about rank points and percentages, now all of a sudden the claws come out. But anyway, but yeah, worksheets have to be scored, and by the time you get around to scoring it, the thing that it was supposed to make sure they've read, you're already 2 chapters ahead, and it's gone. Lecture. You must be present to win. Now, how many of you, just for my own curiosity, how many of you, I know many of you here are teaching in the college setting, do any of you have either early college, high school students, or dual credit students in your classes? Okay, and they get pulled out for a lot of stuff, don't they?
Testing.
Standardized testing. Are y'all's early college, or they come here, or do you drive out there?
They come here, they've got their own campus, and then they walk to this campus too.
Oh, okay. And where some of us, like I teach at a comprehensive high school, my dual credit students are. And so I have kids who are on the road for ag, they're on the road for sport, and so there's a lot of absenteeism, all excused, but hey, if I'm lecturing on something, you have to be present to win. And then, of course, class discussion, it only works if they've studied the stuff that you need them to study beforehand. And so what I bring up is this idea that we can use technology to be the traditional instructor that we always wanted to be. We can use technology so we don't have to grade rechecks. We can use technology to make sure that they've read so they have that more interesting class discussion. And we can use technology to make sure that they're with us even when they're not.